party. I'm going to kick things off, turn it over to our guests, and then we'll have some Q&A from Dennis and Seth. Yesterday, Congressman Joe Heck's Washington, D.C. benefactors unveiled the latest advertisement in a campaign to smear Catherine Cortez Masto's record as Attorney General. Make no mistake, these advertisements are shameful, they're disgraceful, they're lies. Catherine's record as a fierce advocate for victims of sexual assault is unmatched against anyone's, but especially Congressman Joe Heck's. Our speakers will go into further detail on this issue. First, we'll hear from Dr. Siegel. You may recognize him as the man in the advertisement yesterday. We'll have more to say about that. Next, we'll have Marlene Lockhart, excuse me, longtime Nevada advocate for women and families. She'll discuss Catherine's record as Attorney General, where she passed legislation to help victims of sexual assault and sex trafficking. Finally, former Washoe County Sheriff Mike Haley will discuss his work with Catherine here in Washoe County and across the state to help victims of sexual assault. Turn it over.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard Siegel. I spent the past 50 years with the University of Nevada, Reno in the Political Science Department, and almost that long with the American Civil Liberties Union, president of the ACLU for about 10 years. Most relevantly, I was serving with Catherine Cortez Masto for more than 5 years on the State Advisory Commission on the Administration of Justice. And the ad that you saw was a meeting at which Catherine and I were working together and constructively to find ways to more efficiently investigate and potentially prosecute rape cases, and to do it in the appropriate ways and to find the funding for that. I was asking a question about her awareness of the issue of facts that were presented in the Reno Gazette-Journal that morning or the day before, and the response was given in such a way that there was some confusion. Clearly, Catherine had been speaking about rape kits and their processing for many months before this meeting and worked for years after that meeting on resolving that problem. This was a case of contemporary political communication where I was blindsided in terms of my role in this. I had been working constructively with Catherine, and it was suggested that otherwise by the ad that was done. I was rather upset by that, and I would like to see the ad withdrawn and taken down. And beyond that, I think I would be prepared to take any questions that you have. Thank you. Do you want to wait for that? Or?
Yeah, we'll wait for that. Go ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Marlene Lockhart, and I've been an advocate on women and children's issues throughout my career. And I have known and worked with Catherine for many years. And in fact, we worked in the governor's office for 2 different governors at 2 different times, and we often traded fun stories about our experiences there. But I was absolutely thrilled when Catherine announced that she was running for the Senate. She represents the best of Nevada values, and there is no one better to fight for us in the Senate. Washington Republicans must know this, must know that Catherine's record of working to improve and protect the lives of Nevadans is above and beyond that of her opponents, Congressman Joe Heck, who has spent 6 years in Congress voting for the right wing of his party and the Koch brothers at Nevada's expense. They must know this, or else they would not be pouring millions into this race, spreading offensive and disgraceful lies about Catherine's record. As someone whose job it is to fight for Nevada's most vulnerable women and children, I know the problems they face. And as someone who has spent over 40 years working in or with Nevada government, I have a first-hand account of which elected officials are true advocates for women and families, and there is no doubt Catherine is one of the best. Which is why the most recent ad attacking Catherine, attempting to paint her as someone who did not fight for women, specifically who were rape victims of sexual assault, is disgusting and offensive to all of those that worked with and know Catherine. And it is insulting to all victims of sexual assault who had the courage to stand up and fight with Catherine to pass laws that protect and empower all victims of sexual assault. As Attorney General, Catherine was a voice for those who are all too often left voiceless. She fought not only for victims of rape and assault, but those who suffered from domestic abuse and violence, and who fell victim to the horrific crime of sex trafficking, and ensured that they could seek the justice and support that they deserved. In fact, I nominated Catherine for the Hannah Humanitarian Award given by the Committee to Aid Abused Women to honor her for her work with respect to domestic violence victims and her sex trafficking work. When Catherine came into office, Nevada law made it possible for state officials to deny compensation to victims of rape or sexual assault if the official ruled that it was a result of contributing factors. To clarify what that means for the non-lawyers in the room like myself, I will give a real-world example. Everyone is likely aware of the Stanford rape case from earlier this year. A young woman passed out after drinking too much, and a young Stanford student who was on the swim team raped the girl while she was unconscious in an alleyway. 2 graduate students found the swimmer on top of the unresponsive woman, and the swimmer ran away. Before 2009, in Nevada, drinking too much or partying too hard was considered contributory conduct in sexual assault cases. State officials could blame a victim's intoxication for leading to the assault that was perpetrated on them. Think about that. Leading to the assault. Catherine recognized this archaic thinking and passed a bill to end this injustice and stop victim blaming. Instead of blaming victims, Catherine empowered them. In fact, it was Catherine's work to help federal regulators stop predatory debt collections that led to millions in relief for Nevada, including the $1.7 million used to help the processing of rape kits. She made it a priority to help the most vulnerable people in society throughout her tenure as Attorney General, and that is what she'll do as Senator. These are just 2 of the many ways Catherine worked to increase support for victims of assault and violence in Nevada, to ensure the victim had the support necessary to become survivors. It is absolutely despicable that Republicans are attempting to smear that record, and just shows how low Joe Heck has sunk in this campaign. Shame on you, Joe Heck. Nevada deserves better. We need someone who will stand up and fight for us, and that's why we need Catherine in the U.S. Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene, and thank everybody for being here today. My name is Mike Haley. I served as the Washoe County Sheriff for 8 years, and I served over 26 years in the Sheriff's Office. As a Sheriff of Washoe County, while Catherine was Attorney General, we worked closely together on many, many important issues that protect Nevadans. As Attorney General, Catherine worked hand in hand with law enforcement to protect our state's most vulnerable citizens. She strengthened laws to get perpetrators off the street and to ensure that victims of horrific crimes had the tools and support necessary to start on a pathway to justice. As sheriff, I oversaw the forensic lab here in Washoe County that processed and stored criminal evidence, which included sexual assault kits, commonly known as rape kits, that were submitted to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office by health facilities. And Catherine supported our efforts, working with us and other attorneys generals from across the United States to support the Violence Against Women's Act, which included the funding of sexual assault/rape kits. The staff at our forensic lab worked tirelessly to process all of the evidence that we had and information that came through the doors related to that. But they faced constant challenges to process that evidence because of the limited and inefficient funding that was provided by Congress. After years of inadequate funding for our forensic lab, I turned to private companies for donations so that we could have the resources that we needed to process this evidence, this vital evidence that included a backlog of sexual assault kits. Catherine was very helpful in that entire process. I turned to private companies because Washington wasn't there. They failed. Joe Heck failed. He voted against more funding to process these kits in our labs, funding that we needed and funding that we could only get if we had a massive backlog. Congressman Heck voted against sexual assault kit funding, and those kits continued to back up and backlog unless we went to private funding to make it happen. Joe Heck spent over half a decade in Washington, folks, working for his Republican backers and not working with law enforcement on these very important issues. I would say shame on you, Joe Heck, and Washington Republicans for your continued untruths. Some would say lies, and I would agree with that. They're pathetic smears against Catherine. Why do I know that these are untruths and lies? Because I was actually in the room when the decisions were being made, and I didn't see you, Joe. Heck doesn't stand up to represent us or stand up for Nevada's values, and we can't afford to have him remain in Washington to represent us. Thank you very much.
Do you guys have any questions? Or did we say it all?
No, you didn't. So you guys are saying that Joe Heck has reached a new low and all that. Joe Heck's not the one who put this ad out. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, what do you want him to do specifically about it?
Call on the ad to be taken down. It's Mitch McConnell that put out the ad. So he can also be called on to take it down as well.